I'm so grateful that you could join us. Thank you.
Well, thanks for asking me to visit with you. Looking forward to it.
You're a wealth of information, and obviously, having served so wonderfully as mayor for the last 4 years, I thought it would be great to have your knowledge and your perspective on the ideal way that we can pursue development in the Central Business District, which is a very hot topic right now, alongside preservation. So if you can think of any success stories, particularly for commercial buildings, what would you share with us?
Well, actually, we just had Hometown Coffee and Juice open up today in the building at the corner of let's see, it's Wisconsin and
I believe so. Yeah.
Bank Lane, and that's actually a great example of the fact that Lake Forest actually has some of the most creative and most restrictive regulatory protocols of any community in the country. But Hometown Coffee and Juice is a really great example of an adaptive reuse. About, I'm going to say, in the early 2000s, so maybe 20 years ago, we were having a big run of banks coming into town, and they wanted to build branches, and they had plenty of resources and just wanted to get into town. And we thought, well, we know this isn't going to last forever. How can we make sure that this is developed properly? And what we did was we created a special use regime for non-sales tax generating businesses that requires a couple of things. One, that they not build a vanilla box if they're building from scratch. And I think the Chase Bank on the site of the old McDonald's over on the west side of town is a great example. If you saw the early drawings for that building, it looks nothing like originally Chase wanted to build. And when we ran them through that special use process, they were forced to build a fungible building that could be reused for other things, and had high quality materials and a lot of design elements to make sure that it fits in with the surrounding buildings. With the case of Hometown, that building used to be the Ferrari dealer, and when Bank of America wanted to go in there and the Ferrari dealer moved out, they had to comply with all those special use requirements. And as a result, the building was, instead of being torn down, it was adaptively reused. It was built with passageways and a little pocket park, which is actually the patio of what is now Hometown. All those features are things that were required by our current codes. And I think it's a great success story because it's a nice looking building. And if you saw pictures of it, I mean, admittedly, the Ferrari sign was really nice to see on our main drag there, but the building itself was pretty tired and pretty vanilla. And I dare say, if you went through and did a before and after series of photos on Lake Forest, that as it looked when I moved here in 1989 versus what it looks like today, it is a world apart. It is a much, much prettier, much, much better looking community than it was back then. At the time I moved in, we had a vacant grocery store on the site of what's now Lake Forest Bank and Trust. There was a material yard just north of Woodland, just north of Woodland on Western, where Kelmscott Park is. Went through two iterations. One was as used car lot for canals, and then after that, the city acquired the site and put the municipal truck yard on it. And now we've got high-end residences there. So I think if you actually look at the history, we've done a reasonably good job. But if you look at the overall results and honestly go back and look at what it looked like 30 years ago, Market Square has actually been greatly improved as well. Yeah. The building's been significantly upgraded by the current ownership after years of neglect. The fire station, which was Market House and is now the Colonial, just went through a $6 million gut renovation.
Right.
That building's now stabilized for the next 100 years. When it was really in bad shape on the inside. So there's been a lot, and we've got opportunities. There's going to be more. There's more interest in the community now because success breeds success. So,
That's wonderful. I love hearing not only about, the traditional historic buildings, which are just beautiful. I was just in Market Square and couldn't resist taking a picture in the sun of, the clock tower, and there were crocuses blooming. It's just wonderful. So I really appreciate that part, but also I think thinking about commercial buildings that may not be as beautiful to look at, but really, if they weren't well maintained and weren't properly updated, they would take away from the overall impact. That's a really important point. So I'm really glad that was the example you talked about. But you mentioned that more businesses might be coming in. So when we try to project into the future, what are some of the things that you would hang your hat on that you think are the drivers of this success? What are the systems we have in place?
our plan commission, which administers all the special use permits for new development and adaptive reuse. We have the building review board, which is sort of more of a design focused. We have in the historic district, we have the HPC. I was actually on the task force that created the HPC. And that was during my time on the plan commission. So, we've got three significant, and the zoning boards, we've got 4 points of leverage where, and the code has been, carefully constructed to, to preserve and enhance the community. I think it's a testament to the quality of the community and the success of the new restaurants that have opened up here. I mean, these are particularly La Colonial and Sophia Steak. Those are very well-known restaurant operators nationally.
Yeah.
And when they move into a community and they find success, others follow. And that's what we're seeing. So, we've had 10 new restaurants open up in Lake Forest in the last 3 years, both east side and west side. There are 2 new restaurants on the west side, 8 new restaurants in the CBD. So, 4 years ago, that would have been a pipe dream. We were dreaming of the day when our real estate market would actually start to perform a little bit better, and that's happening now. So, but that does mean we have to make sure that we continue to be disciplined and we continue to follow our established processes and enhance those processes where we think there may be some ways to improve.
Last question for you. How does the work of the CBD working group interact with things like the 17-point building code for historic buildings that HPC has, or specific zoning rules within the central business district that the zoning board might have?
Well, every 5 years or so, we relook, maybe it's 10 years, we relook at our comprehensive plan across the whole community.
Mm-hmm.
So the comprehensive plan is a master planning document. It doesn't actually have the force of law or ordinance. That has to be implemented by the various boards and commissions in our ordinances. The comprehensive plan is a guide, is a guide map, if you will. We want to see residential development in this quadrant, or we'd like to see commercial development in this quadrant. We've been through this 3 times in my time on the city council, and we go through methodically and look at the different sections of the entire comprehensive plan and actually then modify it as we see needs changing in the community, objectives changing in the community. So it's easy to forget because we took a 2-year hiatus with COVID, but the first initiative in this round of comprehensive plan review was our West Corridor, Waukegan Road, Settlers Square area review. And that was led very ably by Mike Edelman, and they completed their work. The next thing is the CBD, which is what's happening now. We still have to relook at our housing sort of formulas, if you will, things like bulk ordinances, setbacks, zoning areas, what kind of zoning do we have in what area? Where do we things like where would we allow duplexes versus where we would only allow single family homes? So that's a whole nother element. Eventually, once it's reviewed and critiqued, and we'll have a series of public meetings, it would be translated into recommendations by the Plan Commission to the City Council for changes to our planning ordinances. So there's a long way to go in this process. The CBD portion, that task force is essentially, I think they've essentially completed their work. I think they're going to bring their report to the City Council, and then the City Council will comment and send it to the Plan Commission for review. But really, the 17 standards in the HPC are they kind of stand apart. That's part of the overall zoning code that we have. There are certain elements of it that are applied by the zoning Board of Appeals.
Mm-hmm.
Some parts of it, for example, how are we going to deal with subdivisions, is dealt with by the Plan Commission. If there are recommendations from the CBD group or the housing group for that matter, or any of the task forces that are feeding into this overall review of the comprehensive plan, those will go to the HPC for consideration, and they could conclude that they want to add an 18th standard, or they want to combine 3 of the standards because they're repetitive. I do know that those standards, we didn't invent those standards. Those standards we cherry picked, if you will, from successful historic preservation commissions around the country. Mm-hmm. We arrived at the 17, and they haven't really been, to my knowledge, haven't been changed since the HPC was formed. But it's a series of different task forces looking at different elements of the comprehensive plan, reporting back to the City Council, and then the City Council hands the various sections off to the appropriate board or commission for sort of detailed review and recommendations for changes to ordinances.
Thank you so much. I already have 3 more questions I want to ask you, but I promise you to keep this short. I think I admire so much the continuity and the dedication and the persistence of each and every board and each and every task force that works on these plans, and the respect and integrity of the work, and the respect that each successive board has for it. I think that is a testament to, the dedication of every person involved in the process, and the results are all around us. So I really appreciate your explaining it, and I want to volunteer to people to come and talk to you whenever they spy you, because, as I say, you're a wealth of information and knowledge.
Well, I've been doing this for 30 years, and I'm down to my last 4 weeks, so but I'm not going anywhere. I'll be around if people want to talk to me.
I so appreciate that. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You too. Enjoy your spring break, and I hope the weather improves soon. Apparently, it's been pretty nice there, but
yes,
a little cloudy, but warm, I hear.
So. You might get rain again midweek. But thank you so much, Mayor.
Okay. Take care.
Thanks. Bye-bye.